In the latest that we are breaking to you, Madras High Court holds that protesters cannot insist on Marina Beach as a venue for their protest, allowing the state appeal against the single judge order which had allowed protests in the first place. Court says protests can be held at other venues earmarked for the same. Pramod Madhav joining us on this big story. Pramod, so clearly the state government had filed an appeal earlier, and of course this was allowed to begin with, but now the court has come up saying that there can be other alternatives and there is no way that protesters can insist only on Marina Beach as a venue. So that's a very important clarification in that sense.
Well, it surely is. There are various venues that have been isolated and separately placed for a protest to be held in Chennai. That is, like, one is at Vallur Kotam, the other one is at Chepauk. There are certain areas where the protesters are allowed to come together and protest. But what happened is that in 2017, starting, there was a mass program in Marina Beach, and it was not conducted by any political party, but just movements. Various students and people came together, and the crowd at one point reached a maximum of 10 lakh people gathering at Marina, and it was completely a surprise for the state of Tamil Nadu. And what happened is that though no untoward incident occurred, but on the last day there was police lathi and there was violence. Still, it's being investigated. So based on all these conclusions, the Tamil Nadu government stated that no permission cannot be provided in Marina to conduct protests. However, Farmer Association leader Ayya Kannu went to the court and he requested permission to hold protests, that is especially for Kaveri water in Marina at that point. But T. Raja, one of the judges, came forward and he gave an interim order granting Ayya Kannu to hold protests over there. For that, Tamil Nadu government went ahead with the appeal with Madras High Court. And as you could see right now, Madras High Court has stated that public order is much more important and stated that protests can be held at locations that have been already allotted for such programs and not in Marina Beach.
Right. So the High Court had earlier reserved its verdict, but now it has made its position clear that Marina Beach cannot be the one and only location for the protesters, and other venues must also be considered. Thanks, Pramod, for joining us on this story. Well, as we all know now, the Madras High Court has made it absolutely clear, upholding the state government's decision in the first place. The MHC upholds TN government's decision. The Tamil Nadu government had earlier objected to protests at the beach, and now the Madras High Court had made its position clear, saying that there is no way that only this particular location can be used for protests. The other venues must also be considered. So in that way, it leaves the other options open. The judge's order had earlier permitted protests in Marina Beach, but following that, there was a trend to insist on this location only for the protest. The state government had filed an appeal against the interim order, and now the Madras High Court had upheld that appeal. I have Mr. Ayya Kannu, who's a farmer activist, joining me on the phone line. So, Mr. Ayya Kannu, your first reaction to what we hear from the Madras High Court today. Do you agree with the court that there has been an unhealthy trend to have Marina Beach as the one and only location, and the court has now observed that public order is more important and everyone should look at it from that perspective?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Yes, madam. I have filed a writ in the Madras High Court regarding as per the constitution law, I have the right to fight anywhere in India. I have the right to fight. I have the right to express my ideas. But the single judge allows us to conduct the agitation at the Marina Beach, like the tribunal in Delhi also. The Green Tribunal objected not to conduct any agitation in Jantar Mandal. Then we file appeal in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court allows us to do any agitate at Jantar Mandal. The Madras High Court single judge allows us to do the agitation at Marina. But the bench today refused. Our request is already the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu came to Delhi and he promised I will write off all loan borrowed with the farmers. You don't agitate in Delhi, you come to Tamil Nadu. But he has not done it. He refused to do anything. But he filed the appeal in the Supreme Court regarding the right of loan. Already the High Court of Madras bench allowed our right of loan petition. Now they are rejected. So for that reason, they have conducted agitation. As per our constitution, We have the right to fight anywhere in India.
That we understand that your right to fight, your right to protest, your right to register your demands with the government, all that is fair enough. But why this insistence and this adamance over the venue, sir? Because the government is looking at the larger issue of maintaining public order, which becomes a huge challenge.
Madam, we are not asking the government to the national way. But they are doing the work for that. But we are demanding the interlinking of rivers, the right of loan, profitable price for agricultural products.
Absolutely.
The government don't want to hear our words. So that's the reason I will file an appeal in the Supreme Court regarding this. Definitely, I will get the permission. As the Supreme Court
no, your issues are valid. There is no disputing that, and you must be heard. But it is an issue of public order as well, and that is what the Madras High Court has observed. Perhaps something that we have to now pay heed to. Many thanks for joining us, Mr. Ayakanu, with your views this morning.